Hello all and welcome to the official FanTeam podcast brought to you by FanTeam, the biggest daily fantasy site in Europe. My name is Andrew and today I'm joined by fantasy football expert Wes Prickett, aka FPL Heisenberg. It's great to have you back on, Wes. How's it been going?
Yes, all good, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good. Struggling a bit in FanTeam season-long game and in Fantasy Premier League. I think my lack of Salah hasn't helped there. I was expecting a bit more last week from Kane and Son, but I'm doing okay, in some of the other formats.
Yeah.
And I've had a few wins actually on the FanTeam weekly monsters. Only small ones, but really enjoying it. How's your fantasy season going?
Yeah, not too bad. So my fan team season long game. I'm in the cash positions at the minute. Not not in the real high positions where the big money is, but still in the sneaked into the cash positions, which I'm happy with after a mediocre start, which sort of aligns with my mediocre FPL start as well.
Okay.
But early days.
Indeed. And in terms of the football, obviously last time you were on, we were talking about, all the penalties and all the crazy score lines and
Yeah.
stuff. Do you feel we're starting to get back to a bit of normality now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think was it game weeks 1 to 5 where there was just crazy
Crazy.
amounts of goals, and then the last two game weeks seems to have mellowed out to a bit more normality, shall we say? So yeah, I guess that's going to continue now. Like teams have settled down, they've had their sort of almost the start of the season has been almost their pre-season maybe, where
Yeah.
they've got the mistakes out and their defensive issues out of the way potentially, and it's normalized.
Cool. Great stuff. And many thanks for coming on, Wes. So for our YouTube watchers, please remember to click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and to press the like button if you enjoy our content. So our feature tournament for this podcast and video is the Gameweek 8 Weekly Monster, and we will be running through the weekend's applicable fixtures and sharing our entries with you. So our watchers and listeners are aware what it is. It's very similar to the free hit chip in Fantasy Premier League, where you basically pick the best 11 plays for the game week that you think will score the most points. In terms of rules, the basic rules are you build a squad of 11 players. It must include at least one goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and a forward. You can select up to a maximum of 3 players from any one Premier League team. You have to fit it all into a 100 million budget. You can make unlimited changes to your team until 12:30. The contest starts at 12:30 on November the 7th. You need to pick a captain, which scores double points, and a safety net applies, which is a great feature on FanTeam. So if your player does not start, he'll be automatically replaced by a cheaper player from the same club and position, and player's price will not change. So for those watching on YouTube, the point scoring matrix is on screen, and as you can see, it's very similar to the season-long FanTeam game and indeed the Fantasy Premier League game. Wes, how have you been enjoying playing the weekly monster game so far this season?
Yeah, a lot, because mainly you're kind of free from the restrictions of season long fantasy games where you're thinking, okay, I'm going to bring in say Vardy this week. He hasn't got a great fixture, but over the next 6 they're better. So you kind of take it on the chin if they blank in the first week, because you're looking more long term. In this, you can just go right 1 week punt all over the pitch. You can bring in those players who you don't particularly like long term. I know we're going to get onto my team, but I've got Van Aanholt in this week, for example,
Yeah.
as just an exciting player to own. I'm not that confident in long term for like the season long games, just in case of another injury or something like that. But on a 1 week punt, I'm definitely going to go for him.
And I think it adds another dimension to how you watch the games as well, because normally you watch them a certain way from a fantasy view, and then there are certain games you kind of dread watching, when you don't, own that player you really want because you can't afford him
Yeah,
or just haven't got him in a season long game. But obviously, this allows you to watch the game in a different way, and then even though if all your opponents in season long games are captaining him, at least you can have a bit of a shout out then because
yeah.
you've got him or captained him in the weekly one. So yeah, really enjoying it too. There are 3 full round classic tournaments every game week. One has a prize pool of €10,000 with a guaranteed first prize of €1,000, which you can enter for as little as €2. There is a high roller tournament if you want to play for big money, but our feature tournament for this podcast is the €50,000 prize pool game with a guaranteed €5,000 first prize for a €20 entry, with prizes going all the way down to 556th place. Just a reminder, to enter all FanTeam contests, you must be over 18 and be gambleaware.org. Whereas if you won, what would you spend €5,000 on?
So, well, we can't go on holidays at the minute, being in the
No.
UK, being on lockdown. Um, So yeah, possibly just save it for a nice family holiday with the two kids when we can do it. Hopefully next summer.
Hopefully we can get away next year, mate. It's been a long old year, haven't it? Stuck in the house. So the 8 applicable Premier League matches for this competition are Everton versus Man United, which starts at 12:30 tomorrow. You've then got Crystal Palace versus Leeds at 3 o'clock, Chelsea versus Sheffield United, West Ham versus Fulham. And then moving on to Sunday, we have West Brom play Tottenham, Leicester play Wolves, Man City and Liverpool. What a game that's going to be at 4:30, and then Arsenal versus Aston Villa in the evening. So with those fixtures in mind, Wes, which ones are you kind of targeting for your weekly monster team for game week 8?
So yeah, I'm kind of targeting Crystal Palace versus Leeds and West Ham versus Fulham. I've got a couple of Hammers in there, a couple of Palace boys, and I've also got a Leeds defender as well, because Palace aren't necessarily that great going forward. So Dallas has got a clean sheet and a potential goal in him as well.
How do you think that Man United are going to react to their kind of previous two poor performances? I thought they were awful midweek in the Champions League. The defending was almost schoolboy for both goals, wasn't it? Are you expecting a reaction against Everton, or do you think Everton are going to turn them over?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I have got the one United player in my team, but not a defensive asset. I am hoping that the asset I've brought in can get me some goals. But yeah, how will United react? They're almost the hardest team to predict, because one week they'll smash Newcastle 4-1, and they got a couple of good performances in the Champions League prior to this week.
Yeah.
But then in the Premier League, they lose 1-0 at home to Arsenal, and they were quite flat that game. So they're quite hard to predict. I'm happy to go for one of their assets, but I wouldn't be tripling up, and not against a decent Everton team. Hammers or Readings back maybe. I think we've got to wait for news on that one.
Yeah,
but Everton will potentially be a little bit better, so I wouldn't be going all in on United.
that's fair enough. I quite like the look this week of Chelsea against Sheffield United. I think that the Chelsea seem to have clicked, and Timo Werner scored the penalties midweek, and Lampard confirmed he's on penalties, so he could potentially be a really good option, both in season-long games and potentially this week. West Ham versus Fulham, I'm really interested in, because Fulham haven't been great, whereas West Ham have been good. I do think Antonio might be out, which is a shame for West Ham, but I do think there are potentially some of the assets there. Yeah. Spurs and West Brom, I mean, if Spurs continue their away form against a pretty hapless West Brom, you'd probably expect a shed loads of goals there, even though Spurs didn't quite do it against Brighton last week, even though they scraped the 3 points. And the other games, kind of Leicester and Wolves, Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Villa are all quite hard to call, I think, because Leicester and Wolves, are pretty resolute teams, I think. Man City and Liverpool, I mean, who knows? It could be 4-1, 5-1 either way, right? It all depends who kind of turns up on the day. What kind of match are you expecting in that game? Where's it, Man City, Liverpool?
It's one of those hard to predict. Either way, win, lose or draw, I wouldn't be surprised at that. But obviously, we'll come into our teams in a minute, but with how the pricing's done in this, it's very much factored into the fixture.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this game, you can get Mane for cheaper than Kante, I think. I haven't actually got all the prices in front of me, but I know that you can get Mane for cheaper than a lot of other midfielders because of the fixture. But I'm hoping City can get up defensively by the dynamism of Mane.
Yeah.
And therefore he's hopefully a little bit underpriced. Whereas obviously the likes of Kane and like the Chelsea boys are a little bit more expensive, and obviously they've got a better fixture, so I would prefer them. But obviously you've got to juggle your money like you do in all fantasy games.
We do. So with that in mind, Wes, let's have a look at how you've juggled your cash. So for our YouTube watchers, we've now got Wes's team on screen. So if you could just read out your team, Wes, for our podcast listeners, and run through your thoughts on where you've gone for these picks.
Yeah, I'll read through it nice and quickly. So I've got Ramsdale in goal, Dallas, Van Aanholt and Masuaku at the back, Mane, Zaha, Podence, Bowen midfield, Vardy, Rashford, Kane up top. So just to sort of go into a little more detail about those picks, Ramsdale was there purely for financial, hoping for save points there away at Chelsea. If they randomly pulled off a clean sheet, that would be a miracle. But he's in. I've basically pumped more money into my 10 outfield players. I might switch that up actually, looking at the likes of the Villa defenders who could really actually be good budget enablers there. So I might flip this up a little bit and potentially upgrade the keeper. So yeah, I'm not saying go out there and put Ramsdale in teams, everyone, because he's not exactly a good choice. So I'll move on to my defence. Dallas, goal threat. Palace can be hit and miss in terms of their creative and goal threat. So, who knows how that one's going to pan out. Van Aanholt, again, a good defensive team. He's an attacking player. He would have got an assist for Batshuayi last game, but Batshuayi was, I don't know, half a yard offside or something.
Yeah.
A kind of cross along the ground, wasn't it? Masuaka again. So all my defenders are cheap-ish. So yeah, that's why Masuaka's in there. Got some assist potential. Mane, I alluded to earlier, is a decent price at 9.7. Hard fixture, obviously, but I can't see any reason why why Liverpool can't score against City.
Yeah.
Zaha, yeah, he might be one that I maybe look to switch out. I'm not sure on Palace, but he's their talisman. He takes penalties with Milivojevic. Excuse the pronunciation. Out suspended, so he should still be on pens, which is good. Podence, again, every time I watch him, he looks really good. He tends to be this 65, 70-minute man, which isn't ideal, but maybe on a one-week punt if you can get a goal early. But like you said earlier, Leicester are a good defensive team, but he's more in there for his price. He's 7.9 in this game. Yeah, and if Wolves are going to create and score something, he looks likely to be involved.
He looks a fantastic
player.
player.
Not 100% set on him.
He kind of reminds me of a young Hazard from years ago. Just a really low centre of gravity. Really fast feet, fast runner, good dribbler. He looks a really good player for the future.
Yeah, he looks like he's underperformed actually in the season-long games that I've been playing. I've been looking at him thinking, actually, I'm quite fortunate that I haven't owned him in either FPL or FanTeam season-long game, and he hasn't punished me too badly yet. So I've been quite fortunate in that regard. Moving on to Bowen, quite expensive because of the fixture, 10.9 million, but it's Fulham at home. West Ham are looking pretty good. Bowen's one of those explosive type players. He might blank, he might score a brace. So it's kind of a punty one, but it's Fulham at home. So what better time to have Bowen in your team if you can't get him into your season long? And up front, I've gone for 3 premium-ish sort of high-end prices in Vardy. Tough defence, Wolves, of course, but I feel like Vardy's a fixture-proof player. Rashford against a decent Everton side, again, not the ideal fixture, but Rashford has looked back to his best in certain games. I know not the most recent 2 United games, so who knows what Rashford / which United will turn up. But you've got to take, you can never guarantee anything in football. And Kane's in there, been phenomenal this season. He could very easily switch to Werner, who's a similar price and has also got a good fixture. But, Spurs have got a good fixture there as well. So yeah, I haven't attacked the fixtures as much as maybe I should. With the likes of, I've got no Chelsea, you'll notice there. I'd really like to have a Chelsea player. Yeah. I've only got 1 Spurs. But it's just like I say about juggling the cash and hoping some of these players can perform.
I think this week it's been the hardest week for me to pick a really strong team, and it's because I think most of the premium teams are playing a very kind of low ranked team. So all the good players are very, very expensive. It's very hard to fit in more than 1 or 2 premium sort of players, but I think you've juggled it well there. I think that's a really nice looking team. You've got cover on the main attacking fixtures aside from Chelsea game, maybe, as you said, but other than that, it looks really nice, mate, really exciting. I've actually got 3 of your midfielders in my team. So if we move on to my team then, I picked Ramsdale, so you mentioned him earlier. So I picked him last week just because he was playing Man City, and while they obviously lost, he made a few saves, so he got 4.5 points last week, which is a really, really good return, for a really cheap keeper, and I expect him to do the same this week, actually. I've actually gone for Johnston this week for West Brom. I actually prefer him. I think he'll make more saves probably against Spurs than Ramsdale will against Chelsea personally, because obviously Spurs attacking stats are really, really good. So while I'm hoping that Spurs score a few, I do expect him to make a few saves. So that's why I've got him in. I've probably gone for a bit more of a stronger back four. So this is the first time I've gone for a back four this season, and like I say, the reason I have is because it's quite hard to get some of the big names up front. So I've gone for Konza, who is the cheapest player in my team. They are away to Arsenal, so Arsenal have been playing well, but they haven't been scoring many goals. Konza, he's got a bit of attacking threat. Not expecting much from him, but I think there's an outside chance of a clean sheet, maybe. So that's why he's in there. I have gone for a Chelsea asset.
I was just going to jump in and say that I think Conte's a really good pick. I think he's actually, like, to reiterate what you just said, I think he's underpriced, a bit of defence. Like I say, Arsenal have been looking more likely to be involved in sort of the 1-0, 0-0 type of games. So Villa, he could actually get you some points whilst also freeing up a lot of cash. So yeah, that's a really smart move, I think.
Cool. And so I have got some Chelsea coverage, but I've gone for it in defence in Chilwell. So the Chelsea attackers are very expensive. They're all around the 14 million range, which you can get the left back for 11.3 million. Now, Chilwell has basically been playing as an attacker in the league in the last few games. I thought he was really unfortunate last week, not to get an attack in return. I thought he was fouled in the box, and he also had the assist for Giroud, which was chalked off as well. He was brought off early midweek in the Champions League, so I think he's nailed to start. Looks really attacking, against a Sheffield United team who only scored, I think it's 3 goals, I want to say, all season. So I think a clean sheet is quite likely there, but I also think he could get some attacking returns. And I've gone for a double up in West Ham defence, which I don't think I've ever said before in my entire life, but I think the value this week. So I've gone for Creswell at 8.5. So I think, he shows really good attacking stats on free kicks, on some corners as well. That home game against Fulham will be a nice one for him. And I've also gone for Ogbonna. So I haven't picked Ogbonna as such. He was kind of who I had left in terms of budget. But again, I think that that West Ham game home to Fulham, probably hope for a clean sheet, even though Lookman and Mitrovic for Fulham, are obviously dangers and look sharp. I would hope for a West Ham clean sheet there, because their underlying defensive stats this season, even though they haven't kept many clean sheets, their stats are pretty good. So onto midfield, and I've gone for 3, the same as you. So you mentioned Mane. I don't think I've ever seen Mane as cheap as 9.7 million. I think he's a really good option this week. I do expect Liverpool to score a goal or two, and he's generally involved if they do. And I agree with you on Zaha and on Bowen as well. Zaha, as you say, should be on penalties, and even though Leeds have played well, they look very, very fragile at the back. I think they've conceded 13 goals in 7 games, which is an average of a couple of goals a game. And again, if Palace score, usually Zaha is involved, so I think he's a really good pick. And then for my 4th midfield spot, I've gone for Grealish. I think with Grealish, I don't expect him to get much away to Arsenal, but if anyone is going to get anything, it's going to be Grealish. He's on the crest of a wave. He's playing probably the best football of his life, and I think to quote a person who I was on an FPL podcast on last week, he's probably been the second best player this season, but behind Harry Kane. So I think if anyone is going to score anything, I think him at 7.9 is a good pick. And then at front, I've gone for Harry Kane away to West Brom. I can't see how you can't go for Harry Kane this week. I would have ideally liked Son as well, but he's very expensive, and if you have the double up, then you just can't fit in anyone else really. I've gone for Bamford because I thought he was quite unlucky against Leicester. He had some really good chances on Monday evening against Leicester. He's been playing really, really well. Palace defence has been a bit on and off. So again, I think at 9.9 he's a reasonably decent price. So my team there, I'm pretty settled and happy with it. Actually, I'd probably look to captain Kane in terms of the vice. Maybe put on some, maybe Zaha, maybe Bowen, because I do think they're 2 really, really good options this week. I'm quite excited because I don't own them in my season-long games either, Zaha or Bowen, so it kind of gives you that bit of cover there as well. Are you captaining Kane in your team, Wes?
Yeah, bit of a boring pick, but I think I can't look past Kane in both the season-long games and the monster we're doing now. So yeah, it'll be Kane for me. I'm not sure about Vice yet. I'll have a little tinker after we finish recording.
Okay, and any other players you were kind of thinking about, or players you were really liking that you couldn't quite afford, or didn't quite make the cut.
Yeah, it's mainly like you said earlier, like the likes of Son, but he just looks a bit too out of the price range with the rest of your team, um, which is why I like your Consa pick because it's allowed you to get a few more of those and getting like a Chilwell. Um, so yeah, I'll possibly look at tweaking it and getting in maybe a Chelsea midfielder, or like you said with Chilwell earlier, he's got that attacking potential, so he could be the best pick there. That you're getting a good route to attacking points from Chelsea there from a defender. So yeah, I really like that pick. The only thing I'd probably change with your team is possibly Masuaka over Ogbonna, but I guess you've gone for
How about show that? Yeah.
guarantees. So I think Masuaka is he's a tiny bit cheaper as well, so you can definitely afford him.
Oh, a really good show that is actually. I'll probably
Yeah,
do that. Yeah. I
yeah.
never thought
Ogbonna was
I've
still
had
amazing.
a double West Ham defense. It sounds really weird saying it, but they look really, really good. Yeah, I think I do like the look of Ziyech. So he was brought off early in the Champions League as well. He just gives them that balance as well. He kind of stretches the team from on that right hand side, which gives Werner a bit of space. He seems to have built up a really nice relationship with Reece James as well on that right hand side. So I think that Chelsea look like a very, very exciting and attacking team, and you would expect them to score a few goals again on the weekend. Sheffield United, who haven't looked the best. So okay, so that is it from us for this episode. Hopefully it has given you some ideas on who to pick for the Game Week 8 Weekly Monster. All the links are below for all the games we have discussed today. So thank you very much, Wes, for joining me this week. We'll have you on again very soon, and best of luck for this weekend. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah, just enjoy it. It's a chance to, have a free hit, which is something that we all enjoy to do. Just being able to be free, picking players that you don't need to worry about any sort of long-term issues, and just have fun with it.
Cool, thank you very much for that. So remember that if you liked what you watched, please press the like button, and remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you're listening on a podcast, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. So this will be available as a video on the FanTeam YouTube channel, as available as an audio podcast on all major podcast libraries, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Just search for Official FanTeam Podcast from wherever you get your podcasts. Our website is fanteam.com, and our Twitter handles are at FanTeamOfficial and at FanTeam_UK. Give us a follow for regular game updates and for entry giveaways for lots of other FanTeam competitions. We'll be back in a couple of weeks looking ahead to the Game Week 9 Weekly Monster. The very best of luck for you for this weekend. Goodbye for now.